Thanks for joining us today. We have a special edition of the show. It's specifically for small business owners that are trying to navigate their way through the COVID-19 crisis. We've got the Small Business Association of Michigan, Rob Fowler and Brian Callie here, and we've got lots to talk about. Let's get to it. Welcome, Brian Callie and Rob Fowler from the Small Business Association of Michigan. It's so nice to have you on again this week. I have been following the messaging coming out of SBAM. I follow your 3 p.m. Facebook Live chats with business owners every day. And it's really been an amazing journey going on with you two. So it's great to have you here. We're doing sort of a weekly wrap up here on what happened last week. We're filming this on Thursday evening, so just know that some things are probably happening between Thursday and Sunday, but the big stuff really has come out, and now we're starting to dig into some of those details. Brian, I noticed you've got an interesting background. You seem to be in your car. Why don't you let us know why, and then also let us know what's going on at SBAM right now.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I do these in my car because I have 3 kids and a dog at home, and there's just there's no peace in the home for doing a TV show. So but there's so much happening. The situation is still every day so much change, and the job of the Small Business Association of Michigan is to stay on top of those changes and communicate it to our members. This whole week, this past week, has really been geared toward helping our members get in the best possible position that they can be in to apply for a Paycheck Protection Program loan, the type of loan that gets forgiven at the end of it if they maintain their payroll. So this is it's an exciting opportunity that we don't see happen very often from the federal government, where there's something actually specifically for small business owners. But we feel real urgency behind this because so many of our members and the small business community at large, they're really struggling today. And so this is our work. This is what we're determined to do, is to make that connection and ensure that every single one of them takes advantage of everything that's available to them.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you getting in your car and updating us. I can't be that comfortable. I have to say I'm living and breathing the PPPL, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, every minute of every day. I'm just so anxiety ridden about getting my application in soon enough. I don't know how it's going to be processed. I don't know how well banks are going to be doing. I'm hoping I picked the right bank. But I found, I hope it's okay to mention, maybe I shouldn't, but there was a large bank that I found a checklist of all the things that I needed for the PPPL application. And that's what we've been following, is that checklist. So, but it's worrying. So, Rob, let's start with you. What are some of your observations that have arisen since we last spoke? It's a very serious situation today. Put it in perspective, and then tell us what experts are saying.
Yeah, I think, thanks, Lisa. We have, I think, like most of our members, we've kind of found a way to continue to do what we do. We're doing it remotely. I think we found a rhythm that sort of every day we start with a team meeting, and we answer questions from small businesses across the state that are pouring into our website at sbam.org. And, we sort of run the traps of what's happening new, and then we do a daily briefing at 3 o'clock every day. That's been our pattern, to make sure we have the latest information and bring that to our members. I think in perspective, what happened since last week, the deadline, if you will, got pushed out. And originally there was a presidential order and a state executive order. It looks like there's a sort of a line to the next date is April 30th. We know that the economy will be essentially closed down until April 30th. A lot of hope that we can begin to open it up after that. But part of the challenge we have is there is just simply no way to push the pause button on a business or on the economy, and then just start it up again. It doesn't work that way. And I think part of the challenge we're having is how do companies literally stay in business? And so you've just mentioned this PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. I believe it is a lifeline from the Congress. I may never have said those words before in my life, a lifeline from the Congress, but I believe that's what we have. And we literally are trying to get every small business in the state of Michigan to understand it, to consider it, and to think about it. I think actually it's a big enough game changer that if more companies in Michigan take advantage of it, then Michigan will rebound better than other states. It's that level of a lifeline. And so, as Brian said, we're focusing most of our attention on that paycheck protection program, and really trying to help our members learn about it, understand it in the context of their own business. And we hope that it is truly a game changer for them, a lifesaver for them.
Well, I've got a lot riding on it. I'm just absolutely sure that I'm going to win this lottery and I'm going to get one of those loans. And, we were pretty conservative coming into this crisis. So I think I really feel confident we're going to come out of it. I happen to be in an executive group that happened to have met this morning, and they've got some really great questions. I have to tell you, every single business owner in that group was aware of the loan. They were aware of the MEDC loans. They were aware of the local LEAP loans, which is in our community. So everybody in my circle is paying very close attention to these loans. And I know I hear you at SBAM say that you want people to be aware of it. I can't imagine owning a business and not being so aware of it that you are just like trying to get out of the starting gate with it. I mean, that's, like I said, that's how I feel. But they had some really viable questions. And I think maybe we should tackle those because we know that the package has X amount of dollars. So the single biggest question is there enough to go around?
Well, that's actually a really easy question to answer. And the answer is no. There is most definitely not enough. That is $350 billion for the entire United States of America. And if you do the math, $350 billion divided by the number of small businesses, 22 million of them, it's only $17,000 per business. And most applications will be much, much higher than that. We're concerned that the money will run out within a week or so, maybe a week or 10 days at the longest. I sure hope I'm wrong about that, but I'm probably not. And so we are recommending to our members to not wait. And maybe it'd be good to just give a quick overview. So in case somebody doesn't know what we're talking about, you can get a loan which will later be forgiven if you do certain things. It's 250% of your average monthly payroll. That's your loan size. If you use it to maintain your payroll at the same rate and numbers that you had before, and only for 8 weeks, and then only use the money for that payroll, for utilities, interest, and rent or lease payments, then the loan is forgiven at the end of the process. You don't have to pay it back. And so we think there's going to be a ton of demand for this. But we're also concerned that there are a lot of businesses that they're not plugged into our daily briefings. They don't have a banking relationship or a CPA relationship where they're looking out for them and kind of, bringing this to them. So we feel an urgency that we've got to get it out to the ones that aren't plugged into business organizations, that aren't part of their local Rotary Club and just haven't really found a way to connect. We got to find all of them. Yeah.
So I immediately in my brain, I'm a visionary in the business. And so I'm always thinking about the what else. Immediately I think, okay, there's not enough money to go around. Who is not eligible? So maybe you can help answer that question, because I don't know who. It seems like, I've got a very simple business, 10 employees, not a complex thing. Who is not eligible for this loan?
Well, almost every business will be eligible for the loan. If you've defaulted on an SBA loan before, then you will not be eligible for the loan. in the forgiveness of it. So you're out of the mix if you've had a previous default with an SBA loan. But sole proprietors and just regular businesses, S corporations, C corporations, LLCs, they all are included in it, as are 501c3s. So charity organizations, 501c3 organizations are also eligible, all under the same terms. There is a provision for 1099 contractors. However, the IRS has said that those will not be available until April 10th. So April 3rd is when the Paycheck Protection Program forgivable loans start for almost everybody, or started for almost everybody. April 10th is when those 1099 contractors, which will have a different set of rules, are supposed to be able to apply.
So now I have a friend who owns a company that actually sells franchises. They do business globally. And I believe her business, even though the corporate offices are here in the States and Michigan, are over. So it's really technically a foreign business. Would her business be eligible?
It's only to support employees and wages in this country. So the answer is kind of, there's not an all in or all out answer in that situation as you described it. But if you have a situation where you have some employees who are an affiliate overseas and you have some here in this country, you should assume that nothing outside the borders of our country can be included in any of the calculations or any of the support. But in terms of then what does that mean for how you apply, you're really going to have to work with your bank or your loan officer to compare your particular situation to what the rules say, because there's a lot of different ways a business could organize, and there's not a good way to give just a rule of thumb, except for any wages or payroll outside of the United States of America is explicitly excluded from this Paycheck Protection Program.
So I was on, I've been listening in regularly to your 3 o'clock Facebook Lives, and someone was asking a question that owned multiple businesses as well. And that's a very, very common scenario. Business owners, people who start businesses, we are prolific at thinking, there's another business in me. It's kind of like if you're a writer and you've got another book in you. If you're a business owner, oftentimes you're thinking, I could make this a business as well. If you own multiple businesses, let's say you own 20% in this business and 100% in this business, how is that working?
Well, this part is not exactly clear, because as we record this show, we're still waiting on additional guidance. We do know that they have, quote unquote, loosened up the affiliate standards. We do know that there are some cases where businesses that are connected together in ownership or otherwise can be separated and considered in separate applications. But we also know that the application includes the question, what other businesses do you have a controlling interest in, or something to that effect, that you're also an owner of, which would suggest that there are some circumstances where they would either combine them together or limit the number of applications that you can take.
I see. So what are some other of the nuances that I haven't asked? I mean, we spent an hour today talking about this loan application. What else should folks know?
Well, let me take a shot at this one. I mean, I think one of the, we've been talking about this, it's forgivable. It's a forgivable loan. That is not something most people would be familiar with. So there's another word for it. It's a grant, but you do have to do some other things to make certain. So you get the money, and if you do what is expected, then it will be forgiven. And what is expected is that it's spent on payroll, meaning you paying your employees. It is spent on rent or lease payments. It's spent on insurance payments, health insurance benefits can be eligible. You can spend it on debt payments of the company. And so long as you stay inside those expenses, and you don't, and at least 75% of it is for payroll, then it will be forgiven. That's the guidance so far. And I think to business owners in particular, there's some worry that if I take out a loan, actually the truth is in a time of uncertainty, taking out a loan is probably not your first instinct. And so the fact that this is a loan first and that's forgiven sort of on the back end makes some people pause. And so what we've been trying to say is just be clear about what are the conditions of forgiveness. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that companies are now trying to sort through is, if I get a loan and it's not forgiven, then have I actually saddled myself with more of a challenge? So I think eyes open, understand what it takes for it to be a forgivable loan.
So another thing that I'm hearing from business owners is that even if I follow all of the rules and do this right, how do I really know that this loan is forgiven? Why would they even call it a loan in the first place if they're going to forgive it? Why not just grant the money? How do I know this will be forgiven, Rob?
Well, maybe the better way to say it is it's a conditional loan. The way to say it is it's a conditional grant. So long as you do the things that are expected, it will be forgiven. It will be turned into a grant. Earlier today we had Senator Gary Peters on our daily briefing and asked him this question: for those who are skeptical, will it truly be forgiven? I think what the important thing he said is it's the intent of the Congress when they appropriated $350 billion that it will be forgiven so long as the companies do those simple things. That's the intent of the Congress, and if that's the case, then I think you can have assurance that it will be forgiven.
Right. And now that you're saying that, I recall that one of the differences with this loan is that there is no personal guarantee. So generally with a loan, you have to put up your house or your car or your business or your cash flow or something. You have to say, I'm going to personally guarantee this loan, even though it's for my company. This is not the case for these SBA loans. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the loans do not require a cash flow calculation. They don't require the personal guarantee be offered by the owner. So that does relieve some of the risk involved to the business owner if there's some concern that the federal government will not come through on the forgiveness. And in a lot of ways, when we deal with small business owners all the time, and small business owners, their antenna goes up every time somebody says something that sounds too good to be true. And so we spend a lot of time really digging into this to understand, okay, what are the catches? What could possibly get you into trouble? What are the things that could go wrong so that we could let our members know? But it really is a very straightforward proposal here. And there's a legal reason why these had to be done as loans. And part of that is just because the SBA can't do grants. It's just not something that they're statutorily authorized to do, but they can give you a loan and then not make you pay it back, which is functionally the same thing. But then the other thing that comes into play here is that they don't want to just give out grants. They want to give out money for a very specific purpose, keeping people on your payroll. And so if they gave it out and there was no accountability that you actually used it to keep it on the payroll, this forgiveness mechanism is the way that they ensure that before the loan is forgiven, you have to go back into your bank or credit union and show them the payroll records that you in fact did keep up your end of the bargain.
So that kind of transitions me into some of that skepticism that we were talking about. And I know I have to say that the things that have been done and as quickly as they've been done have really given me hope that we're going to be able to get through this. But I have a friend in manufacturing. Again, this is from my group. Needed to lay off some people. They went and laid them off very early on. Large manufacturing operation. Those folks went for unemployment benefits and found that they're going to be making more money on unemployment than they were making working for her. So now she's worried that maybe her employees aren't going to come back to work.
This is a major concern that we have, and an unintended consequence. But but predictable. We did let, as they were considering approving this in the Congress, we did let them know that we were concerned that this would provide a disincentive for people returning back to work. And so it may have been a better idea to say you get unemployment up to 100% of what you made in the work, but not more than what you made when you were working. So this is something that we're still going to have to work through. And we will be giving feedback when we hear from our members that they're not able to get people to come back to work for them. We will let the Congress know.
Well, we appreciate that. Can we just maybe end with some good news, a story? I know you've got some amazing members. Is there anybody out there who's really helping with the cause?
Well, maybe the one that has captured people's attention is the company Stormy Kromer. That is the iconic Michigan hat made up in the UP. They are cutters and sewers. That's what they do for a living. And they have literally turned that whole operation into making masks and gowns for the hospital systems up in northern Michigan. It's really just been a remarkable story of ingenuity and entrepreneurship and turning on a dime and being nimble enough to solve a problem. So Stormy Kromer is one of those stories that's really doing that right now.
Well, that's good. I'm happy to end on a positive note. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week. We're going to do this again. Have a good day.
Thanks, Lisa.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Focus on Tech. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about video chat etiquette, the things that we need to do and the things that we shouldn't do when we're on a video call. That could be a one-on-one video call with a Teams or a Skype or the type of a chat call, or it could be a larger group meeting which involves a lot of people. So one of the challenges with that larger group is that people are arriving and they're taking the first 5 minutes, sometimes longer, to make their technology work. We hear people chiming in at the start of the meeting, and 3 minutes later, here's another, and people have to stop and say, well, who just joined? And then, hey, do you have your mic working? And typically 5 minutes to 10 minutes of every one of these types of meetings is people messing around trying to get their tech to work. So my advice is arrive early. Get there 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early if you need to. Make sure that your tech is working before the meeting starts. If you're the organizer, get there super early so that you can help people get online and get their stuff working. Secondly, don't start that meeting without an agenda. Okay, just like a normal face-to-face meeting, somebody has to bring the agenda, and don't send that around with an email and then have people say, well, when did you send it? I can't find it, and they're looking for the email, which is, again, wasting time in the meeting. All of these types of meeting applications, Zoom or Teams, have places where you can store files right in the meeting room, and you can share things. So do that ahead of time. Create that meeting room, put a shared doc in there. Leadership is really important in this type of a meeting, so don't just come to the meeting expecting someone else to do something. If you organize it, or if you have things that you're responsible for in the agenda, make sure that you come prepared to do that, and whoever's leading the meeting needs to run the meeting just as if it was a face-to-face meeting. Pay attention, okay, when you're there. Nobody wants to see you texting or spinning or turning or, I'm falling asleep, because they can all see you and it's right there on their screen. So sit up straight, pay attention. When you're in the meeting, if you're not speaking, it's a good practice to mute your microphone. Nobody wants to hear a dog barking in the background or someone typing on their keyboard or coughing or these types of things. So mute your microphone, pay attention, know where the mute button is when you need to speak, unmute. There's sometimes tools where you can raise your hand to get someone's attention. There's often a chat window on the side too that you can have an offline chat one-on-one with somebody, so you don't have to say something verbally. Someone should be responsible for keeping time, just like a regular meeting. Someone should be responsible for note-taking. They can do that inside the meeting room. That's the best place to do it. Then everyone can see the shared doc and contribute to it perhaps as the meeting's going on. Okay, so get there early, come prepared, make sure your tech is working, mute your microphone. work with inside the tool that you have to get the documents shared, and so that people can enjoy the meeting experience and get something out of it. Do those things and you'll have a productive meeting.
Focus on Tech, brought to you by Providence, making technology easier.
Today's Focus on Legal is for businesses who have been forced to close as a result of the current pandemic. Now, let's face it, natural disasters and other unexpected events close businesses all the time, but this is unlike anything we've ever seen, and the stress from owning one of these businesses can feel overwhelming. I recommend to start by creating a list of your top 3 priorities. This will give you something to do, allow you to make a short-term plan, and have some sense of control over your short-term future. This will hopefully start to alleviate some of that stress. Your top 3 priorities are likely your payables, receivables, and staff. For your payables, make a list of your financial obligations in order of importance, likely rent, mortgages, insurance. Okay, remember you probably are getting a tax holiday, so check that out, and take off any auto pays for services you're not currently using. Keep as much in cash reserve as you can and start relying on those lines of credit. As far as receivables go, you're not getting too much cash in the door, so now is a good time to go to your customers and offer discounts for paying in advance or paying their bills in full. You may also want to offer gift cards and gift certificates for future use. This will get revenue in the door and will generate goodwill. As far as staff, this is a difficult topic. I strongly recommend that you rely on the State of Michigan's excellent website that gives advice and recommendations and lays out the law for employers who are currently facing this difficult decision. For those of you who have already had to lay off, please keep in touch with your employees at this time and make sure that you are helping them access their different unemployment benefit resources, other community and financial resources that may be available to them. Making this list will not only keep your mind busy, but it will give you some sense of control and therefore alleviate some stress during this awful time. Take care.
Focus on Law, brought to you by Policella and Associates, PLLC.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week as we continue coverage for small business during the COVID-19 crisis. See you then.